Certainly the peer review process has been very beneficial for Kiribati. It's set a number of targets and basically provided a toolkit for how to improve our development efforts. Those targets are something that we, as part of our aid and development efforts, measure ourselves against. And certainly we're actively encouraging donors to do the same and seeing evidence of that and real improvement in not only the coordination but how the improved coordination affects aid and development delivery. I think we've seen some really positive developments in Kiribati as a result of those recommendations. Particularly in the last 12 months, we've seen a very strong momentum grow around not only coordination in design, but also increasingly coordination in delivery. An example of that is the water and sanitation sector, where we're jointly working with all PRIF partners through the Pacific Regional Infrastructure Fund to look at how the World Bank's work around the Kiribati Adaptation Program, the ADB's work around sanitation is aligning to support what will be the Kiribati Government Water and Sanitation Roadmap, which will basically drive the work in that sector until 2030. We recognise there's still challenges with that work and certainly something AusAID's been looking very keenly and very closely at doing is encouraging lead donors in a space where there's comparative advantage. Health's an example of that, and what we're doing in health is supporting the WHO to work with the Ministry of Health to develop a strategic plan for health, because WHO is obviously an agency with a comparative advantage in that sector. And similar examples, of course, are in economic management and reform, where the ADB and the World Bank and PIFTAC are really the key agencies in the region that should be delivering in that sector, and we're more than happy to be supporting and financing those efforts to ensure that Kiribati's needs and the peer review recommendations are met. Certainly our long-term vision is to increasingly work to streamline with government systems and be using government systems in the delivery of our aid program. We've spoken a lot with the Government of Kiribati about that, and we recognise that's really a longer-term vision. The first thing what we have to help the government with is improving public financial management in Kiribati, making the systems more robust, dealing with the key economic reform issues that the government's prioritised, with a long-term goal of ensuring that our aid and development efforts are aligned with Kiribati's government's own processes. Our relationship with the government is certainly very strong, and I think that started with the Partnership for Development in 2009. We made a very public commitment to improving the relationship and the delivery of our programming to align with the government's needs and interests. What the peer review does for us is it expands that mandate somewhat and allows us to not only work very directly with the government to implement their priorities and their needs in terms of development, but also increasingly include other development partners to ensure that not only are we coordinating with government, but we're coordinating with other members of the development community to ensure that we improve the impact of our joint development efforts. One of the real challenges in Kiribati that we're finding in the delivery of our programming is the issue of resourcing in country. We recognise that development relationships are fostered in the country in which the programs are being operating, and remote management of programming is somewhat of a challenge. We're very excited about the ADB and World Bank establishing a joint office here, and we see that as a real opportunity to continue to grow and strengthen the donor coordination in country and work increasingly closely with the government